what's going on? It is Wednesday. It is Wednesday, right? Yeah, it is Wednesday. It's Wednesday. It's raining. We had what, an 82 degree weekend out here in Southern California, and it's like 51. And well, it actually just slowed down right now, but 51 and raining. Luckily for this little tarp, it has a little water break. But right now, what we got going on is we got the most common problem seen in the lowrider industry, as this is probably one of our #1 questions we always got or get, and it's regarding pumps and seeping and the cars dropping overnight and stuff like that. Either whether it's sitting there in the garage and it's dropping, or you're at a show and you hear that thunk thunk, it's dumping down. So we had a few videos on how to assemble the pumps and how to do all that, but I'm just gonna run through a video on me actually doing them. Customer brought in these 2 old pumps right here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take them all apart, and we'll run through the issues or the possibilities that could be wrong with it. He had a few different issues, a few different corners were leaking. So in theory, you're going to have to take apart pretty much 3/4 of this pump. So why not take apart everything? And while we're taking everything apart, you might as well just rebuild the whole pump, rebuild the gears if possible, depending on what gears are in here. New pressure seals, new tank O-rings, rebuild the dumps itself. New check valves. Take all this off, because if you look, the check valves are all the Teflon around it. See how it has that yellowish color? What that yellowish color is from the oil seeping through over time. Not necessarily mean it's leaking, but the oil actually seep up each thread kind of in the spiral motion as the MPT goes up, and will actually soak all these the Teflon, or the Teflon that's exposed. So what we're going to do is just take all this apart, clean it all up, do a full rebuild on all these, and I'm kind of going to run through and show you guys how it's done. So we were just getting started on this tear down. Normally what I do is I just start by taking off all the hoses. If there's any zip ties on the wiring, take all the zip ties off the wiring, then I'll break the swivel here to take it apart. But what I wanted to touch bases on real quick is what I saw was a very common mistake that we see almost every day. And a lot of people aren't educated enough to know on this, which I don't expect them to, especially if it's their first car. But that's the reason why we're here. We're going to try to educate you guys a little bit more about this. So no, this is where the return goes back in. So this guy is actually connected to the return side here. See how this has a little flare on it? This has a little tapered, shape on it. This is a JIC fitting. You'll find these commonly in our industry, number 6 and number 8. Those are going to be the 2 most common. Well, the JIC fitting is also, this is a male, as you guys pretty sure could figure out, male. And the female side is in here. And if you look inside the hose, there's actually a female taper. What that is actually meant for is these are actually meant to seal on each other. So when you put them on here, that is why you don't crank hose fittings. You go, once they're snug up, you go about 1/4 turn from there, and then tighten very lightly, depending on if it's still leaking or not. I got oil spilling everywhere over here. But a lot of people make this mistake and they put Teflon tape here. As you can see, look at this, Teflon is just in the way. What happens with the Teflon gets in the way of the actual sealing of the mating surface right here. So the male-female, where it meets at, it actually gets in the way, and it causes you to have more leaks or not to seal properly. So anytime you have a JIC fitting, you do not put Teflon tape there. The only time you're going to put a Teflon tape is when it's just a pipe fitting and it's just straight. Anything that has this JIC taper on it, you do not put Teflon on. So since I was tearing it apart and I saw that, I want you guys to know that it was a kind of a perfect example. Worked out perfect in this case right here. But from now on, I'm going to continue tearing down. I'm going to tear down both these pumps real quick, and then from there, I'll show you guys what's next. the pump and the block off the tank, and you guys can see all that silver stuff sliding back into the oil. That's actually all metal shavings. You guys see right here, it's all metal shavings right here. Kind of see how it's a metallic color. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually drain this oil out, clean out his tanks completely, make sure there's no debris or sludge like this in them. All that stuff will cause check valves and dumps to go bad because it goes in and runs through your whole system, goes up to your cylinders, back and forth, and it does that. Every time you hit the switch, it goes forward, it goes back, it goes forward, it goes back. And as you can see, this pump's not even moving right now, and you can see it actually moving in the oil and traveling through the oil right now. Just if you give it a little shake, you'll see how well it mixes up. And what happens is it gets through all that system, runs through your system, and it actually gets stuck in the check valve. Actually, here's a big chunk right here. It gets stuck in the dumps, and that causes it, see, that's actually Teflon tape right there. So Teflon tape, when you put it on the JIC, it runs through your system and causes all this to get clogged up. Causes the check valves to get all clogged up, causes the dumps to get clogged up, causes seeping. So that's the whole reason we're doing this video, is because he had so much seeping going on that it wasn't even worth trying to pinpoint which one. It was just worth replacing all of it, because it just doesn't make sense if you're taking it all apart just to leave one piece in there that's old, especially when it's only one check valve's like $12. So to go through that and just leave it and go through all the hassle of doing all the work just to leave one check valve on there, it doesn't even make sense. So we're replacing everything on here to get this right. So wanted to kind of show you guys that, because this right there, that's just bad. So we're gonna go get this dumped. We're gonna clean out the tanks. I'm gonna open up the other one right now, and we'll check the same thing. So after taking the tanks apart, you could actually look in there. I don't know if you can see this. I don't know if you guys can see into that porthole. The O-ring is blown out, and you could actually physically see it. It's kind of hard here. Let me see if I get some lighting in there. See that black line going right across the middle of that hole? That's actually the O-ring that got pushed out, and you could actually see the heart shape in there as well. These are original Merzaki's along with this one, so this is part of the reason why we do a full inspection on it. So we're gonna actually drop this whole thing apart real quick, both of them, and see what's going on here. We'll just break them all. Alright, got them all apart. I always try to keep everything separate, so each one will have, each pump will have its own rag. And these things leak oil everywhere, so expect, especially on a used pump, so expect to, use a whole bunch of rags. We'll normally use like 6 or 7 rags while rebuilding a pump. And, alright, so you guys can see this guy's stuck on there pretty good. What you can do, just right underneath here, there's a little crease. You could actually get this flathead's a little bit too small. Go have to run and go grab another one. Get a flathead, and you could just kind of just pop it up. There's no sealing surface here, so you don't have to worry about scarring it. Plus, it's inside the tank, so you don't got to worry about it. We'll do the same thing with this side. Pop these 2 gears, because this one, yep, that one's tight too. So we're going to pop these up real quick, and we'll take the gears off, and we're going to rebuild these things completely. The first gear is taken apart, and as you can see, sir, I found your problem. So of course that's going to be an issue. This is caused from overlocking, over pressurizing the system. And one thing I got to tell you guys real quick is when I take the gears apart, and what I do recommend for you guys as well, is do not take both sides off apart, especially if you're not familiar with it. Now in my instance, I can, because I know how this stuff goes back together because I do it so often. But if you're not really familiar with this, do one side at a time. And the way I always do it is I pull it off, and as soon as I pull it off, I just lay it down. That way you don't mix it up. You could clean all this up, rebuild this one side, put it back together, then do the other side. And that's the same thing I'm going to do right here for you guys. You could just tell this system, has not been maintained at all. The O-rings are just flat. That means just over time, you can see there's no little bevel on it. It's just flat on top and bottom, smashed. And what I always do is I always make a pile of my O-rings. That way I know what has been rebuilt and what hasn't, because what tends to happen a lot is I have to run away from what I'm doing because phones ringing, customers coming up to the front. So I got some parts cleaner. I'm going to take this and parts clean it. So just remember, when you guys take it apart, lay it down. Do one at a time. That way you don't flip this around. I see a lot of guys that go and will take all this apart, and what happens is you take all the dog bones apart inside, and if you mix it up and you flip it upside down, or you flip one of these caps upside down, you're not going to build pressure. You're going to sit there and it's just going to bubble inside your tank. You're not going to build any pressure. So that's just a key thing to remember, is just always remember to just leave this here, flip it down, do one at a time. Don't rush the process. This takes time. Do it right. And while you're doing it, you might as well just rebuild this whole thing. It doesn't make sense. I see a lot of guys will rebuild the gear, but they don't put a new $2 pressure O-ring, or they don't put an $8 tank seal in there. And you know, in the end, it just means you're going to keep constantly taking this stuff apart, because you're going to be chasing instead of just rebuilding it all at once. So I'm going to continue with this. I'm going to rebuild this side real quick. I'm going to put this in the parts washer. I'm going to clean this up, and we're going to get it all cleaned up real good. Take all this black grime off. Then from there, toss all the new seals in, flip it back up, and then I'm going to do the other side real quick. First one's all back together. Got all the new O-rings on there, pressure O-ring in there, all the new seals in there, and as you can tell, here's all his old seals. So normally what we do is we, even though these are useless, don't save these. I mean, I see a lot of people save these. Do not save these. These are trash, guys. What we do is we normally toss these in a baggie. That way our customer can see everything that we took out and rebuilt. But now that this one's done, I'm going to work my way over to this one and start the process on this one. I'm pretty much going to do the same thing here as I did on this one, but just on another pump. So we're going to repeat that, and once we get this all back together, I'm going to go grab the tanks that are drying right now. I cleaned them up, took all the shavings out. I'm going to reassemble the tanks. That way I know that side is 100% done. What I'm going to do is I'm also going to check the motors, make sure there's no oil that ever seeped into the motor. If there is, then I'm going to use electrical parts cleaner inside the motor, clean all the motor out, blow it out, let it sit for a little bit, and then reassemble all that as well. But now, work my way to this one. Alright guys, we're making progress now. So we got actually both pumps done, which is good, it's exciting, but the bad part is it's getting close to the end of my day today. But I'm going to try to get as much as I can done today. If not, I'm going to finish what I can tomorrow. So now that the interiors are all done, which I mean interiors, I mean both gears. And you can see there's all the gear O-rings, shaft seals are all trash, tank O-rings, those are all trash. I'm saving those for the customer so you can see them. But what I got to do now is I actually got to go to the motors, and I'm going to actually take off all these fittings here. I'm going to take off all this Teflon tape that's not supposed to be on the JIC. I'm going to wire wheel everything and take this stuff off. And we're going to clean everything up. At the same time, I'm going to be taking all these fittings apart. As you can tell, they're yellow and they're seeping and they're just disgusting. So we're going to take them all apart, clean them all up, and we're going to put new check valves in everything, rebuild all 4 dumps. And the reason we're doing that is because he had seeping going down on his car. You know, he said he came out into the garage one day and the car was actually 3-wheeling on its own. Which is actually pretty impressive. Most guys try to get the car to 3-wheel and they can't do it. And this guy came out and it happened on accident. So what we're going to do is we're going to, you know, these are the check valves here, here. And if you want me to go more in depth on them, there's a whole video about assembling this stuff. So I'll go more in depth in that video than anything. If anything, I could link over to that below, down. So I'm just going to go through, clean all this crap up, you know, fix all the mistakes of the Teflon on the JICs like you see here. That's not supposed to be there. And we're going to clean all that up, make it right, make it functional, and then we're going to get these pumps on the bench test, and we're going to test them on pressure and see how they react on 24 volts. So we got these dumps taken apart, cleaned up, fittings cleaned up. We got them back in the vise right here, just tightening them up. But what we're going to do right now is I was going to plan to rebuild them. Well, one problem is jammed in there. Second problem, see those holes? Well, see those holes? See what they look like? See that hole? That is the prime example of putting Teflon, or way too much Teflon. What happens? It could actually jam up your dump. And that's exactly what's happening right here. You can see the O-ring slightly worn on the top side, and also the Teflon coming out of the center holes right there. So that means that Teflon at one point had to travel through there or through that hole, and it's either jammed or stuck in there. So we're going to have to take this thing completely apart right now, further than I was expecting, and actually go through and blow it all out, clean it out, and inspect it, make sure there's no other Teflon or debris stuck in these, causing these to stay open. Got the first pump all done now. Motor's on, hose is on. The only thing I gotta do is toss on the solenoids up here on the dumps. Then right now we're also working on the second motor, or the second pump I should say. Second pump is up on the vise right now. Just took all these off, cleaned off all the Teflon, resealed everything. As you can tell, there's no nasty Teflon sticking out everywhere. Cleaned out all the holes and everything. So all we gotta do is just clean the dumps off, which you can see in there. There's actually Teflon buildup in there, and even right here. So we're gonna clean all those out. I just rebuilt the cartridges. Cartridges are just all freshly rebuilt. So just gotta toss them in here, get them on here, and we'll be golden. Moving on to the second and final one now. All right, guys, so that is it. We got both pumps all assembled. We did end up doing 4 new check valves. Took the 4 dumps apart, rebuilt those guys up completely, cleaned them up, redid the cartridges, sealed them up a lot better than they were. Some of them were actually missing O-rings. Cleaned out all the Teflon debris that was in there. We also went over the reasons why you don't put Teflon on JIC fittings. The reason you don't do that is because it ends up in the system, in the tank, and it's also gets in the way, so it actually causes it to not seal correctly. So we went over that. There's a few things. So this is the most common thing that happens in lowriding: seeping, dropping. Why does it go down by itself? Why doesn't it hold pressure? Why do I hear a clicking noise when the car's sitting and no one's in it? So that is why we went over this and did this video for you guys, so you guys can see what is going on. I'm trying to stay quiet, but Vic over here is making a lot of noise. I'm sorry, we're busy, we're working. He's actually working. Can we actually take a moment and just bow our head in silence as we listen to the graceful sound of Vic working? I love that grunt. That grunt's sexy. Now he's gonna get all embarrassed. All right, guys, so should we tell them it's me and my Bato working? All right, so we're gonna finish up the day. It's pretty much closing time for us right now. We gotta clean up. We got all of our tools back inside. We are actually outside right now. Luckily, we are covered because it has been raining all day. We just got hit with a whole bunch of lightning and thunder right now too. So luckily, we finished it up just in time, right before the day's ending. So we'll get these guys on pressure check tomorrow, but I know they're gonna hold perfect because I rebuilt the crap out of them. So there you guys go. That's a full step-by-step. Well, not necessarily step-by-step, but it was more of a how and why and how you should do it correctly. If you're taking the pump apart, just take it all apart, or redo all of it. It's the safest way. I mean, you're gonna spend maybe what, 50, 60 bucks more, but it's worth it. It's worth, the headache. That way you don't have any issues down the road, especially if you have your kids in there, your family in there, your wife in there. You don't want them to be broken down the side of the road for a dumb issue of a $2 O-ring. So there you guys have it. You guys have a great day, great night. You guys drive home safe in the rain. Vic, man, a very few words.